Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on how to control nerves and begin speaking confidently. As a public speaking trainer and coach, probably the most frequently asked question, the most common problem that people bring to me is, Peter, how do I control my nerves when I have to do speaking, when I have to do presentations, when I have to facilitate or train? How do I control nerves? So the aim of this webinar is to give each of you 2 or 3 skills that you can use to be both more confident and more effective as you do your presentations. And let's say you've moved into a leadership role, or you've got a new job and you have to do training, or you have to run meetings, and now you're stepping up and you're just not that confident. So hopefully there's 2 or 3 things that each of you can walk away. A lot of new people today, so how to participate in webinars, ask questions as we go. You will know there's a little dialogue box. Just type in that question at any stage. Even type in a comment like you agree with me or that you disagree with me. I will pause occasionally to ask questions. Take notes, and one of the things that's really important is the application. How do you apply what I'm saying to your own circumstance? And the best way to do that is, how could have I used this information in a previous speech? So think back to the last time you spoke. Think back to, or think forward to when you've got something coming up. Is there anything that you could do differently or that you could include in a presentation that would make you more confident? So don't just listen to the information and take notes. It's the application, the applying the information to your own circumstance that's going to make the big difference. So the agenda, what we're going to cover in the 30 minutes, understanding the role of nerves in public speaking. Yes, they do have a role. Your reality distortion, so what's happening to you versus the audience's reality. Learn to reframe your nerves. I've got a couple of tools that you can use. I'm hoping one of them will work for you in terms of a different way of thinking. The concept of doing more speaking and how to gradually chip away at this fear, gradually chip away to become more confident by expanding your comfort zone. So that's the agenda for today. So understanding the role of nerves. And I love this quote from Mark Twain. There are 2 kinds of speakers. There are only 2 types of speakers in the world. Those that are nervous and those that are liars. And that's really good news, because what it means is those speakers that come across as confident, as eloquent, as effective, who you assume have got no nerves, would have had nerves at some stage. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, that distinguished Harvard academic, said all the great speakers were bad speakers once. So when I do my workshops, and I'm a public speaking trainer, when I do my keynotes, I am nervous before I begin. And those of you who know any psychology will understand that peak performance mode comes from a healthy level of nerves. And Sally Pearson, 2012 Olympic gold medalist, was asked if she was nervous. And she said, of course she's nervous. I'm glad to have nerves. If I did not have nerves, then I wouldn't be ready to race. If you do not have nerves, you're not ready to speak. Nerves put you in your peak performance mode. Now, I do not want you to be so nervous that you freeze in the spotlight like a rabbit, but you need that healthy level of nerves. If you're too calm, you will miss the starter's gun. If you're too calm, you'll still be on the blocks when the other people have dived in. So that peak performance, that healthy level of nerves, helps you be a better, a more attentive and alert speaker. So I have to dispel one of the myths straight away. Peter, how can I get rid of my nerves before I do public speaking? You can't. You shouldn't. You don't need to. Let's take it a step further with the role of nerves. Let's take it to performance anxiety. Most of you know Ringo Starr, one of the Beatles. More and more with younger audiences today, they don't know who Ringo Starr is, so I have to say the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine. Ringo Starr vomits before most performances. So he's been on stage 20 years with the Beatles and 20 years since the Beatles. So he's a drummer. He still vomits before he goes on stage. So his nickname, as you'll see from that tabloid heading, Pukey in the Sky with Diamonds. So Ringo Starr is nervous, he vomits, he goes on stage, he plays for 2 hours. Is his performance bad? No, it's just that he's nervous. So the sooner you get to understand that your nerves are a part of your public speaking and you need them, a healthy level of that nervous anxiety, a healthy level of that fear to put you into your peak performance mode. So whether you're a public speaker, whether you're a music performer, or whether you're an athlete, there is that performance anxiety. So the good news is that the role of nerves, point number one, nerves are a part of public speaking. They're probably never going to go away, but you can control them, you can harness them, you can turn those nerves into a positive energy. I like to use a metaphor about wild horses. So wild horses are magnificent beasts. They're completely out of control. They run whichever way they want to. They run 100 miles an hour. The wind is blowing through their mane. They are completely out of control. Think of your nerves as wild horses. Don't shoot them. Rather, harness them, tame them, and they'll take you on the ride of your life. So rather than killing the wild horses, learn to harness them, learn to tame your nerves, and they'll take you on the speaking journey of your life. So guys, the nerves are not going to go away. Your reality distortion around nerves. You've probably seen this before. Both of those dotted lines are the same length, but our reality is distorted. Same with your nervousness as a public speaker. So how do you control nerves? You understand that the reality for you is not the audience's reality. So let me explain just a little bit further. When I do my public speaking workshops, I do this scale of 1 to 10. And I get people to stand up and speak for 1 minute. It's a bit of an icebreaker. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? And what do you do for your work? After that, I get them to rate themselves on this scale. So 10 is really nervous. Above 10 is a near-death experience. 1 is so calm that you're not even nervous at all. Most people in my workshops rate themselves around a 7 or an 8. Some people even go as a 9. And occasionally someone will call themselves an 11. Peter, I was dying as I was doing my presentation. So above 10 is a near-death experience. Peter, I was dying as I was delivering that presentation. So that's that person's reality. I then ask the audience to disregard that person's self-assessment from what you saw, from what you heard, from the content I asked them to speak on. Where would you rate that person? And invariably the whole audience goes between a 4 and a 5. There was nothing that we saw from you as a speaker that indicated that you were anywhere near this level. So the anxiety reality check, the nervousness reality check. The audience only sees 50% of what's happening for you. We only see half, 50%. So what that means for you is you're doing twice as good as you give yourself credit for. And you know that nervous quiver in your voice? You know, the dry mouth, the heart that's pounding through your chest wall? We don't see it. As an audience, we don't see it, we don't notice it. And the reality is, and this is a different webinar, if you give us good content, if you solve a problem for us, if you help us get to somewhere where we want to in our career, in our life, in a problem that we're working on, then we'll love your information regardless of your nerves. Some of the most confident speakers I've seen, they have no nerves whatsoever. They're down here, really confident. And they walk off the stage and they think they've absolutely nailed it. And they've had no impact. They've just delivered verbal diarrhea as they stroke their ego and build their own self-esteem. And the impact they've had on the audience is nothing. There's those speakers that are dying in their shoes, really nervous, that have great impact, great connection, and the audience walks out thinking, wow, I really appreciate that person's presentation. So the lesson, really simply, is that what's happening for you, the audience doesn't see. So you can be nervous and be effective, be powerful, and be influential. Just going to pause for a moment. Any questions? Just type in the dialogue box. And I was down in Bunbury yesterday running a workshop, and one of the participants said she used to have a fear of public speaking, a morbid fear of public speaking. So she went to this media training because she had to do some radio and maybe some television for her organization. And she delivered this presentation, which she rated, self-rated as terrible, abysmal, diabolical. The trainer was recording the video, and then he took all of the participants in the workshop one by one into a little room to review their video. And what she saw in the video was a confident, eloquent person that made complete sense. So when she looked at herself, she realized that what she was thinking, her reality, was not the reality from the audience's perspective. Reframing. And please don't wait for me to ask if there's any questions. Any stage, just type in and put the questions into the question box. Any comments? Anyone else had any other experiences where they felt really nervous, but the audiences later on said, thank you very much, I really enjoyed your presentation. So reframing. I want you to look at your nerves. I want you to think about your nerves from a different point of view. And I've got one comment. I have 2 presentations next week. I feel more nervous about the internal one than the external one. Can I give you some more tips? And there will be some more tips as we go. Just on that, the hardest audience you'll ever present to are your peers. Then the next level down is a group of strangers, and then the easiest level is a group of people who are not your peers but who you have connected with. So when I do my workshops, I make sure I introduce myself to everyone before we start. I shake everybody's hand. I've done a little bit of background on the organizations you work for. I've got your email, I've got your name. So when I walk in and present, you are not my peers, but you are not strangers. So Rebecca, understand that the one you're talking about, the internal workshop, the internal presentation, is the most difficult one you'll have to do. Because at the end of your presentation, you still work with those people. So maybe one of the reframes will work for you. Instead of being nervous, I want you to get excited. Instead of being nervous, I want you to get excited. So how does that work? Well, you know when you're about to get on the world's tallest roller coaster ride? Do you feel nervous or do you feel excited? When you stand before a group of people to speak, are you nervous or excited? This is what happens when you're excited. Your heart rate increases, the adrenaline starts to flow, all your blood vessels vasoconstrict, your palms will get a bit sweaty, And if you're speaking, your voice will have a little bit of a quiver. That's if you're excited. What happens if you're nervous? The same physiological reaction. So the thing with excitement and anticipation versus nervousness is they are so similar that you can choose. You can choose to be excited. So Rebecca, when you're doing your presentation in front of peers, I want you to be excited. I want you to be excited to be there. Choose to be excited. Your heart will pound a little bit faster. The adrenaline will flow, but you're going to be excited because you've got some information they need to hear. You've got some new knowledge on new policies or something else that they need to know. So that's reframe number one. The second reframe is to get rid of public speaking, to get rid of presentation. So I now give you permission to remove public speaking and presentation skills from your vocabulary. Just have a conversation. You know how you chat with somebody one-on-one? You know how an audience member arrives early. So you're starting at 9 and someone rocks up at 8:15. And as you're getting ready, you just have a chat to them and you just talk about things. That's exactly what you do in front of 150 people. And it's important because you need to take who you are one-on-one, who you are over a cup of coffee, to that 150 people, because that's your authentic, genuine self. People make a mistake and they think now that they're on a stage, they must do something different. They must stand upright. They must change their voice and put a plum in their mouth and speak absolutely plastic perfect. Because should they do one thing wrong, what will the audience think of them? No, don't do that. That's a performance. Public speaking is having a conversation one-to-one with all 150 people in the room. So get rid of public speaking from your vocabulary and just have that conversation. Make eye contact with one person in the middle of the room. Then transfer your eye contact to someone down the front and have a chat to them for 1 or 2 seconds. Then move to someone down to the back left and have a chat with them and just randomly have one-on-one conversations with the people in the room. And it doesn't matter if you miss someone, because in a big room of 150 people, when you look at one person down the back, the 10 people around them will think you're speaking to them, that you're having a conversation with them. Really important, because if you do this fancy high-profile presentation performance thing and then the audience chats with you over a cup of tea and they realize that who you are off stage is not who you are on stage, you'll have a credibility gap. Who's the real Peter? Is it when he puts that plum in his mouth and does plastic perfect public speaking and tries to mimic a radio voice? Or is it when he's just talking? Which one's the real Peter? I'm not sure. Take your genuine, authentic self to the stage and just have a conversation. Reframe number 3. I call this the Asian way or the Chinese way. You have a choice when you're on stage. You can focus on yourself or you can focus on your audience. One of the things with public speaking that we say is it's not about you. It's about the audience. And nerves and nervousness is a state of self. It's an internal state. You notice what's happening for you and your mind is going, what if they don't like me? What if I muck up? What if they make a mistake? What if they ask a question that I can't answer? So this is focusing on yourself. This is an ego state. This is a state of self. In fact, some people say it's a state of selfishness. So what I'm saying is if you're nervous, when you get before a group of people, you have chosen to focus on yourself and disregard the needs of the audience. So this is how you do it. As you're about to present, the nerves are with you, but you're excited. Park the nerves in one corner of the room, walk on stage, pretend to be confident, give it your best shot, focus 100% on the audience. If you focus on what's happening to you, you are robbing the audience to feed your ego. So focus 100% on the audience. And then when you're finished, walk off the stage. You can pick up your nerves. They'll still be there. Pick them up and take them with you. Public speaking is not about you. You need to get over yourself and focus on the audience. This is sometimes called tough love, but this is the reality with public speaking. As soon as you realize the audience doesn't care about what's happening for you, they're selfish. You've attended this webinar not to stroke my ego. You've attended this webinar, not to cheer for me. You've attended this webinar for yourself, to take something away from me. So if I decide to focus on myself, then I'm in an ego state and I'm not giving you guys what you need. Be respectful of your audience. Focus on them. You can pick up your nerves when you leave the room. Reframe number 4, and it's kind of a tool, the elephant in the room. If you're nervous, one of the strategies I teach people to do is to mention up front fairly early on, by the way, guys, I'm quite nervous. I don't enjoy public speaking, but I've got a couple of key messages that I think you'll find valuable. Don't apologize for your nerves, but as soon as you announce it, you don't have to try to hide your nervousness anymore. You don't have to hide the monkey on your back. Hey guys, I'm quite a nervous speaker, and if I could do something else other than speak, I'd be quite happy to do that. However, the information is really important, and you've got clients, you've got people with disability, you've got people in the healthcare system that need to hear the information I'm going to share with you. So despite my nerves, I'm going to share my passion, my strategy, my logic, my good news with you so that you can go out into your communities and do what you need to do. Most of you know my elephant, and that is that I'm a person who stutters. So when I start my workshops, in my introduction, I let people know that I do have a stutter, and during a one-day workshop, you will see some stutters. I don't try to hide my stutter, and invariably, no one cares about my stutter, and I go through the day and I don't stutter as much as I would stutter if I tried to hide or tried to pretend that I didn't have a stutter. What's your elephant in the room? Some people go red. Look, guys, one of the things you'll notice with me here is that my face goes bright red. It's one of those things that happens to me when I do public speaking. I've tried to calm down. I've tried to relax. Nothing happens. So don't be surprised. Let's just focus on the message I'm going to share with you. If that works for you, by all means. So there's 4 reframes. What I'm saying to you is, do any of those work for you? Are you going to eliminate nerves and replace them with excitement? Are you going to stop doing public speaking, stop doing presentation skills, and have conversations one-on-one? Are you going to be respectful of your audience and not focus on your ego? Don't be nervous. That's a state of selfishness. Or are you going to disclose the elephant? Use any of those combinations of reframes. Most people find one of them helpful. Please, any comments, any questions? Just got 10 minutes to go, so I'm going to move on and still type in your comments. The next step, you need to do more speaking. If you want to become confident, so in the speaking industry, if you want to become more confident, more relaxed, more proficient, you need to do more speaking. And if you want to do more speaking, then you need to do more speaking. How do you do more speaking? Volunteer to chair meetings. Volunteer to take on a role at a meeting of one of your clubs. Be president, be vice president, be treasurer. And when you do more meetings, stand up. Stand up and do something on a whiteboard. Stand up and do something on a flip chart. The mere act of standing up turns that meeting into a mini presentation. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Do more community presentations. Doesn't have to be work related. Feel free to put forward your idea at Lions clubs, Rotary clubs, Apex clubs, Probus clubs. They're always looking for guest speakers. See, Shan, I notice you've got your hand up. If you've got a question, can you type type it in. I'm not going to open up the microphone today with the amount of time we've got. So Zishan, just type in that question. Thanks. And join a public speaking club. So you've got Rotary, you've got Rostrum, you've got Penguin Club, you've got Toastmasters Club. I work all around Australia. There's a Toastmasters Club in Karratha. I've just come from Bunbury where there's a Toastmasters Club. If you go to Busselton or Margaret River in West Australia, they have Toastmasters Clubs. Albany and Kalgoorlie have Toastmasters Club. Bendigo has a Toastmasters Club. I think Mildura has a Rostrum Club. If not, form a public speaking club. Anthony Robbins says that repetition is the mother of skill. I'm challenging you to get on your feet once a week. If you want to control your nerves, if you want to be more confident, you've got to do more speaking. So Zishan, you may not speak appropriate English. If English is your second language, most Australian audiences think that you are amazing. And I work a lot with the Chinese people, so they love that don't be disrespectful to your audience. That reframe comes from working with Asians. They worry about their Chinglish, their merger of Chinese and English language. Most Australians don't speak two languages. Most Australians are in absolute awe of bilingual people with English as a second language that stand up and speak. So I think that we will allow people to mix up their words, to mix up their tenses. We will give people that privilege and we don't worry about it. If what you're saying, however, so the essence of your message is gold, the essence of your message solves our problem, then we don't care if you don't speak exactly appropriate English. Most audiences don't care if I have stutters or when I stutter. They allow me to stutter. The biggest person who gives you a hard time about your stutter, your accent, your mixed up words is yourself. So Zishan, I would say just let it go and we'll give you more time to find the right word. Should you be reading from your notes? Is it okay to disclose? My recommendation is don't read from notes. My recommendation is know your content so well that you don't need to read from your notes. Now, having said that, do have some notes and you may have some quotations. You may have some statistics or data that you cannot remember and you need to refer to those. So by all means. But I would not stand behind a lectern and read the majority of my presentation from a script or notes. Even with those quotes that I had on the screen, did you notice that I didn't say them word for word? So if you think about Mark Twain said there's two kinds of speakers in the world, those that are nervous and those that are liars. That's not his exact words. That's not his exact words. And Sally Pearson, when she was interviewed, about being nervous. Of course she's nervous. She said, if I wasn't nervous, I wouldn't be ready to race. Once again, I know the essence of that quote, that I don't have to give the exact words. However, if you're doing data statistics, you may need to refer to your notes. So do mention that. There are occasions where I'm going to refer to my notes. I just want to be accurate in this particular aspect of the information. But then it's about sharing your passion, your stories that help people move forward. So you need to do more public speaking if you want to become more confident. So the only way to get rid of your fear of doing something, the only way to become more confident is to go out and do that thing that you're afraid of. Where does that come from? Dr. Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. This is not a public speaking book. This is a self-help book. If you want to do more public speaking, you have to do more public speaking. Expand your comfort zone, so take some risks. So as you move forward, and this goldfish has put it all on the line, small, turbid world, big, bright, new world, but he's taking a risk. There's no doubt about it. If he falls short, that's the end. In terms of public speaking, do small steps first. Do your meeting. stand up in front of 5 people. Once you've done that for a while and you feel comfortable, join your Toastmasters club. Once you've done that for a while, join another Toastmasters club or speak at a Toastmasters competition against other clubs. And instead of having 15 people in a room, you'll have 50 people in a room. Speak at a district conference, state conference, national conference. Gradually expand. I don't believe doing what the fish did, which is jump in the deep end, is a good way of dealing with nerves from public speaking. I don't think that this is always works, you dive in the deep end. So put your hand up and speak at a national conference as your first public speaking assignment, where if you have fear and you're nervous about it and you're not a good public speaker, you might nail it, you might wing it and get through, but it also might set you back. So I would rather work towards that goal, if that makes sense. So start with the 5, then the Toastmasters, then multiple Toastmasters clubs, then the state conference, then maybe the national conference. And when you've done that for a while, that's your new zone of comfort. So standing up in front of Toastmasters now, doing public speaking workshops now is not uncomfortable for me. Keynote speaking in front of 200, 500 people is still something that makes me really quite nervous. Okay, so summary, understand your role of nerves. They're not going to go away. Understand it's gone 9:30. If you have to go, please go. I'm just wrapping up. Your reality distortion, the audience doesn't see what you're seeing. So if you let go of those nerves and understand you're doing a good job, that may help you. Which reframe is going to work for you? Conversation, excitement, focus on the audience, the elephant in the room. Do more speaking, get on your feet once a week, and gradually work at your expanding your comfort zone. Don't necessarily dive in at the deep end. I'll take further questions via email if anyone wants to ask me anything else. Next webinar is Thursday the 30th of August, and this is a checklist, 10 steps. So those of you who mentioned you've got a presentation coming up, this 10-step checklist is something I used to go through just to tick it off. So I'm presenting in Melbourne on Thursday. I will go through this checklist to make sure that I'm ready, because preparation is one of the keys to being successful, and it's part of controlling your nerves. If you're really prepared, you don't have a lot to worry about. Workshops, guys, I've got vacancies in Melbourne. I know I've got a few Victorians on, and I'd love to get some more people at the 2 Echuca workshops. If anyone can forward the workshops to anyone in Echuca, Bendigo, Shepparton, that area, please do. They're on my website. Lots of workshops in Perth and Karratha, and I'm going to end the webinar there. Thank you for your participation, and understand that nerves is probably just a part of public speaking. So how do you become more confident? A little bit of self-acceptance. You need to do more of it and gradually expand your comfort zone.